welcome to Gym of the City. This is the movie edition of the Gym of the City. We're going to be touching on Antlers. We saw that last night. It is a Scott Cooper directed movie. TSG Productions. TSG Productions, y'all might be familiar with Free Guy, Hidden Figures, Logan, the Planet of the Apes movies. TSG has their hand in all those productions. Big time movie budget for this. The setting of this movie starts off in Oregon, small town in Oregon, when a teacher and her brother, who is the sheriff, discover one of her young students is harboring a secret, a dark secret. And that is pretty much the premise of the movie. Yeah, and I'm joined by Kadeem.
Hey everybody.
And I'm Cameron. We'll be doing a lot of movie reactions throughout the course of this year. This is our first one, so bear with us.
So one of the things you instantly see, as you said, the director Scott Cooper, he's the same guy that made Out of the Furnace, the Christian Bale movie. And he has a real specialty of working with small towns and making everything feel really, really personal. And this really comes to life in this small Oregon town. I don't even know if we ever get the name of the town. Like it's really encompassed in a very small area. And I think that's probably one of his specialties as a director.
Yeah, that is probably his thing, to get that whole small town feel. You see a lot of the characters. Every character means something to the story. I will give it that. Every character does mean something to the story. Everything's at stake, but not everything is not at stake.
Yeah, they don't. This story doesn't overload you with a lot of characters. Everyone that you see for more than 2 scenes is really important. There's not a lot of side characters, not a lot of extras. And I think the idea of that was so that, like Cameron said, everybody feels important. Everybody feels like they're a big part of the story, but I'm not sure how well that's conveyed as the end, towards the end of the movie. That's not conveyed as well as I think people would have liked.
And how we're going to do this is, by the end of our movie reaction and review, we're just going to tell you what rating on the stars from 4 stars that we give the movie, as well as do we recommend you go to the theaters to go see it or just sit at home, and what level of scare factor or scariness to it, if that is a word, whether it is a high fear factor, a mid-level fear factor, or just low, just not scary at all, like anyone can see it.
Yeah.
So how the movie starts off, like we said, it's a small town in Oregon. Drugs are decriminalized there. He's a lawyer in the day. So drugs are decriminalized. I don't think that plays a part in this movie at all. But the young boy, it starts off with the young boy playing around outside, and his dad comes from a mine, and his dad looks a little sketched out, man. He looks a little sketched out. I can tell that he does drugs. I definitely can tell he does drugs. And it confirms it. It's a meth lab.
The thing I like really in this scene is, at first, to me, it seemed ambiguous, because I didn't know if he was like a coal miner or something like that. But then, once we take 3 steps into the mine, you see it's like, oh, this isn't a blue collar guy. It's a meth lab.
Yeah, it's a meth lab. And he goes in there, and goes into the mine, tells his son to wait. And as he's in the mine, he has his partner, who's also his little meth lab partner out there. And they hear noises, and they go check out the noise. And boom, shit hits the fan. Then the little boy is out there waiting for his dad. He checks out the mine himself. Boom, shit hits the fan. That's when the movie begins. We don't know what happens at all. We really don't.
Not at first, no.
No, it just goes and it says like 3 months later, 3 weeks later.
3 weeks later. Yeah.
3 weeks later. So it just goes 3 weeks later.
For most of the story, we see it's told from the perspective of the young boy who has to deal with the aftermath of the attack. We don't want to give spoilers. So that's really, at best, we can put, there's an aftermath in his attack and a long-lasting effect on his family that the boy now has to shoulder himself.
Yes. The young boy actor, his name is Jeremy T. Thomas. He plays Lucas. He was a phenomenal actor. He's got a great performance. I hope he gets more roles. He really showed how dire the situation was.
Yeah.
how much responsibility was weighed on him.
Yeah.
He didn't really react too negative towards like the things that were happening around him. He understood the things that he needed to do for his family and himself, and that was just like the maturity level of the actor and the boy that he played. It was really evident.
For me, this was the highest point of the movie for me, was the performance by this actor. Some of the best scenes in the movie are him by himself in a corner. And you know, they always say you're really good when you can control the scene yourself. And that's exactly what he does. You feel how scared he is, you feel how alone he is, but you feel how much he wants to help moving forward. And so, yeah, for me, his performance is probably the biggest strength of the movie.
Yeah, that's by far the biggest strength in the movie. And you have good performances from Jesse Plemons, a great actor, is right now on the rise. And you also have good performances from Kerry Russell, as well as she could play. I think she's a good actress in a way that she shows a lot of her acting with her face. A lot to do with her face.
Yeah.
Not what she says.
She definitely has the real estranged, really detached look throughout the entirety of the movie, and it seems like that's what she's fighting to overcome.
And she does really look like your traditional white school teacher. Just gonna say that out there. Yeah. She just does. She just I know I should have said probably white, but yes, she just looks like your regular teacher. Like, she really does. Everything about it.
They put an emphasis on white just because this story, for those of you who don't know, is steeped in Native American, Indigenous, Canadian mythology.
Yes.
This isn't like a werewolf or just some made up monster. This comes from their mythology, from their lore. So it's somewhat frustrating to see that told still through a white lens.
Yes.
When you really could have incorporated a lot more Indigenous people in the movie. I think we only had one,
and then like, I'm not even gonna, in Hollywood, you don't even know if the person that they cast is truly Indigenous either. They can just get someone who they say, oh, he looks Indigenous, so we're gonna make him Indigenous. I think he was Indigenous, but this is a Native American folklore story of, as you said, what was it again? What was the word?
It's called a Wendigo.
A Wendigo.
It's called a Wendigo. So it would have been nice to see that told through more of that lens, or even explore more of that mythology in the movie. One of the places we felt the movie came up short was that you don't dive into too much of the lore of the Wendigo or how that's affected the town before. It's almost treated as if it's a rabid bear, that if we just put it down now, everything fixes itself. And that was a little disappointing for me.
It was very disappointing to me. A lot of things didn't tie together at all.
Yeah.
It was a choppy movie to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't cohesive.
Yeah.
It had flashbacks to try to tie in the relationship of why this boy is connected to the teacher and the sheriff. I didn't really stretch upon that. As a viewer, you had to put the pieces together for yourself, which is, I've been watching a lot of movies myself for a long time, so I'm able to do that. But I appreciate when the movie flows, and this one didn't flow.
Yeah, this movie requires a little bit of headcanon to see why people would react, I guess, in certain ways. It has the three main storylines, are the storyline of the small boy Lucas, the monster, and then the teacher coming back to the town and trying to reunite with her brother.
Yes.
And all of them are pretty strong storylines that could carry movies on their own. But when put together in this one, it almost feels like the movie has an identity crisis. It doesn't know if it wants to be a drama about a teacher and a young boy, or a horror movie where a monster is ripping people apart.
Yeah, that was a really good look at it, and I did not know what type of movie it wanted to be.
Yeah.
And as a movie itself, it was an hour and 40 minutes. That was short.
Yeah.
It was short for a movie like this that was trying to have these type of thing. I think I wanted more build up. It was already a slow burn in the beginning of the movie, so I get why it could have been short. So like, so when we just walk out the movie theater if nothing was happening.
Yeah.
To be honest, but as you stressed yesterday, and you said this probably would have been better as a TV show. I
Absolutely
agree with that.
I think it tells a decent story in an hour and 40 minutes, but this could have really done better as a limited series. 4 or 5 1-hour long episodes so we can see more of the town, more of the result of the monster, more of the history of where, how long something like this has plagued the town. You could dive more into the history of the teacher. I think it had a lot of good concepts that, if flushed out better, make this a very great movie. Especially since we really don't have a lot of American folklore in movies.
No, we really don't. And that was a good look. That's why I was interested in watching this movie, just because I like a different spin on a take on a horror movie. Especially, I have never watched anything like this. I didn't know much about Native American folklore and Wendigos. So I like to learn, especially when it comes to movies. I love movies. I love it. And this movie is not a bad movie. We're not saying it is a bad movie. Even Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 61%, but you can't really take Rotten Tomatoes all the way in consideration. I really like to look at their audience review. I think the audience review, when it comes to movie reviews, gives a more honest take than the critics. Because, the critics try to get their name out there more so than giving an honest critique to me. Yeah.
He said a 61 on Rotten Tomatoes, and that feels about fair to me. I honestly, I really wanted to like the movie. I like the idea of indigenous folklore. I like that portrayed in a modern time. And I even thought there's a part where you see the town being changed over. And, somebody says, the spirits never left, they're angry. And I would almost love a sort of a connected universe. Kind of how The Conjuring has multiple movies set in that universe, where you can see different things because of whether it's how people treat the earth now, or people intruding into sacred lands, or acts of violence like in Candyman, where different spirits that have always been around kind of rise back up. I would have found that interesting.
Honestly, I have a lot to build off of with this movie. Even though it wasn't the best for us, there's something to build off of this. Like what you were just saying right here is there is a door wide open for more creativity to deal with this, and I hope they do. Don't get me wrong, I liked the way Scott Cooper was directing the movie itself with the small town vibe. The shots were great. Had
Beautiful.
Yeah, it had some really good shots. The villain, the monster was a good monster. It had a scary aspects to it. It's just, I think I just wanted more sinister sensations. I don't know if that's the right words to go about it, but I felt like it was missing something to be like I didn't have no gasp, no nothing. It was just, it's here, just here.
The biggest problems of it was the stakes. As I said we only see, probably 40 people total in this movie. That includes the extras and the other people in the classroom, not the story. You only see probably 40 people total. So it should feel a lot bigger when 1/10 of the people die in a day. That should feel like a really big deal. But because I guess we only see through the lens of this small part of the town, everything's kind of disconnected, believe it or not. So it really seems like you could blame this on a bear that kills 4 or 5 people a year, and everything continues. It doesn't seem like the town's in jeopardy, the world's in jeopardy, or anything like that. It's just, a couple people go missing, they never get found, life goes on.
Yeah. And so at the end, I give this movie, out of 4 stars, I give it 2. Peace sign, meaning that I'm watching at the crib. Peace out on the movie theaters. That's how it's gonna be. Yeah.
As I said, I think a 60% is fair. 60 60% is fair, but out of 4 stars, yeah, it would have to be a 2. What he says is right. You can wait to stream this, whether it's on Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime. You can probably wait till this comes to TNT, unless you're a horror movie buff and you feel like, and some people are horror movie buffs, and no matter how good or bad it is, they have to see the newest movie. And if that's you, you won't feel like you wasted your money. But if you're just looking for a good movie to watch, you can wait and see this one on the couch for sure.
Yeah, I say this is on the couch with your girl watching this. You might get a good jump out of there. You might get a little cuddled up with it. Because it's not that scary. It's not going to give you nightmares at all, anything like that. It is what it is type of movie. It's just there. So that's why I'm saying watch it at home.
Yeah.
For you guys. It is a date night type of movie to me. It's not scary. It's just nowhere near scary. Probably has one jump.
Yeah, and it's one really good jump scare. If you're somebody who doesn't like horror movies a lot, or you'll watch something, you'll have nightmares of it, so you like the concept but you can't really watch, this is the movie for you. You're not going to be scared. It's more of a sci-fi thriller at times, I guess you can really call it, or a supernatural thriller is probably the term.
Have you ever seen Annihilate?
Yeah, with Natalie Portman.
Yeah, it had like the monsters, whatever, kind of like Annihilate kind of reminds me of that. Like Annihilate had a little kind of creepy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not scary at all, but it has some jump factors to it.
Yeah.
And this movie is like very similar. Not as good as Annihilate. Annihilate was a much better movie.
I like Annihilate.
Annihilate was a much better movie.
I compare it to It, in the fact, it was way better. It was a great movie, I think.
Better story. Much better story.
It was not a movie you were ever really scared in. It was a movie you knew people were going to die and you were suspenseful and waiting, but you were never really scared watching it. And that's the level of fear I compare it to would be that movie.
I think you kind of were scared with it, especially because he killed kids. So you always felt a little sense of scared for the kids. Like the empathy that viewers get to watching it gets you.
Well, remember, after the library scene in It, there's really not a scary part. After that, he's just dicking around with the kids. Like, it's kind of messed up, but sometimes it's even kind of funny.
Yeah.
So you know they're in trouble, but you're not scared. You're just really wanting to see what comes next.
And so when we said on the level of fear, and on this we give it a low fear grade.
Yeah, unless you're 12 years old, I just can't see you really being too scared to watch this movie.
No.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah, me too. I really would be, especially if you're with someone. Just look next to them and just take you out of it.
Yeah.
Also, last but not least, it was an easy movie to follow, so it wasn't complicated at all. Thank you for listening and watching our movie reaction to the movie Antlers that came out this past weekend. Yeah, watch it at home.